author and motivational speaker Julie Reisler is here with a plan to embrace the day, no matter your relationship status. And it all begins with a little self-love.
It is often the area we don't focus on but is most needed is really tuning into ourselves. What stories are we believing? What limited thoughts are we living as though they're true? And really, that's not who we are.
We often as human beings look at what we do wrong and where our weaknesses are, and we tend to focus on that. There's a reason for that. It's called the negative bias. All of us on the planet have sacred gifts, skills, talents, and passions, and that we're meant to use them. Oftentimes we forget, we give love to everybody else. If you're like me, I have children, giving love to my kids and to everyone else on the planet.
This is such a positive message, and I think especially for young girls too, because there is no greater negative voice in their head than their own.
Everything that I'm about starts with getting still and getting quiet and really tapping into who I believe, I came to this planet to be. So I'm a big fan of really giving to yourself what you're looking for first. And so sometimes others give it to us, sometimes they don't. Who is the You-est you? You have the power to make meaning of words. And I'd invite you to ask this of yourself. Where am I letting words get in the way of me living my most extraordinary life?
You are a masterpiece.
Right?
That's great.
Right?
That's
who doesn't want
awesome.
to see that? Well, we say things to ourselves all the time. We have 70,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah.
Many of those are not very kind.
No.
And what we know is that what we're saying to ourselves, those words, they make a difference. They really impact how we feel.
If you're feeling a lack of energy, sometimes getting connected to something you feel purposeful, that feels meaningful, that can shift your energy. That can get you from crisis mode to not crisis mode. I realized that to be my You-est you, my me-est me, that meant stepping into a place where I could honor and nourish my whole self and really get what I'm here for. And I believe we all have a sacred purpose. There's something like 1 in 14 trillion chances of being born. If you had $1 million racehorse, if this was like a prize horse that you wanted to make money, you would care for that horse with pristine care. What if you could be that $1 million racehorse?
Transformational expert Julie Reisler and board-certified master life and wellness coach and Georgetown University professor is here to talk about some ways we can heal this toxic self-talk. Thanks for being here.
So the first most important step is to become aware, and we can all do this. We unfortunately, as human beings, have what's called the negative bias. That is where we are wired from thousands of years ago. When we were being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, we would have that negative bias of, that fight, flight, fright, fearing things that could happen. We did that to protect ourselves, but we are not, thank goodness, living in a society or times like that today. So the good news is you can change that negative bias. You can change those thoughts. You've got to start with awareness. Our brain, when you ask a new question, when you change your perspective, our brain is always going to look for an answer. So changing the question, changing the way you're looking at something, watch what happens over time. I'm telling you, it is incredible. I've seen it personally with so many people. Do you see certain types being really made to be an entrepreneur versus others not? Or is that a myth, you think?
I don't think entrepreneurship is for everybody. I think it's something that you have like a calling on your heart for wanting to do your own thing.
So let's talk about a high five, because for our entire lives, we've been high-fiving everybody else. So Julie, when you go to high-five one of your 3 kids or somebody else in your life, what does the gesture of a high five actually communicate to somebody?
It's kind of a celebrating, acknowledging, and championing the person. And it's so interesting. I'm like, my brain just went, oh my God, you're right. I've never high-fived myself. The thing you said that I think really stuck out at me is you said, I decided not to let anyone, including myself, get in the way.
Yeah, it's where some people call divine providence meets human sovereignty. It's where there's no option.
Perfect segue. Before we wrap up, I am curious. I know you have this beautiful book, The Calling, your work around, Move the People, and just clearly as a light with your name and heat, light, illumination. What would you say, is both your why and maybe
your future vision? Like what do you feel like you've come here to do? What do you hope to say at the end? I was able to do this. Today, we are going to be chatting, the three of us, about this year to come from an astrological perspective. And I got to tell you both, I have been so excited for this conversation, waiting to talk to you both. Thank you. Welcome. So happy to have you here. The course you have in resilience, the work, I mean, this is one of the reasons I love what you're teaching, is that we learn, how to access our inner chemistry, the brilliance in us. And that, to me, it's like you have the answers. You have it.
Yeah,
it's in you.
It's up for us all right now.
What a lesson it is. One of the stories where you got you went to the department store as you were starting your school in the brownstone. I feel like I was with you. I'm like, I felt literally, you write so beautifully. I was like, I thought when I was with her. This very expensive dress that you wore for the portrait, and just stepping into this aspect of who you were becoming. That's very powerful what you did. Always promoting, nonprofits and organizations that you support. I love that about you. Before we wrap up, really quick last question. I'm curious, like when you think about the vision, Marie, your vision and how you want to continue to add to the world, what's maybe one aspect of that you could share?
Oh, this is a great question. So one of the things for me is continuing to actually pay attention to what's really in front of me without leaning too far into the future.
How did you started in the DC area and now you're in Vancouver and you've built this like beautiful business, so heart-centered. Maybe you can tell us, without getting into your whole life story, maybe a story or two that is really, that illustrates how you really tapped into and why what you do is so important. How can we start to really be okay in the moment? What are some of the tools you're using? What are you teaching? Would love to hear.
Well, in a way, it starts with just honestly acknowledging this is hard.
You are pure, positive, divine light, born to shine, to live from your heart, and to be your fullest, you-est you.